We will talk a little bit about new player in the town. Or we need to wait. Right. Hello again. We will talk today about a new player in the town, in the infrastructure as code town, OpenTofu. Why the project came to the picture, what it is really, how to migrate to OpenTofu, and from what. We'll see it in the live, hopefully, demo. My name is Paweł Piwosz. I worked as a developer advocate at Spacelift, and Spacelift is one of those companies who are behind OpenTofu. I am CD Foundation Ambassador, DevOps Institute Ambassador, and AWS Community Builder, so it means that I have a lot of time in my life. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about history of OpenTofu. This part will be short, for obvious reason, because OpenTofu is quite new. So when it started really on 10th of August last year. Why? Because HashiCorp changed the licenses for the product, like Vagrant, like Consul, like Vault, but also for Terraform. What is the difference now? We have two licenses to compare, and I am not the lawyer, so I will go through this very, very, very shortly. So before, Terraform was MPL, Mozilla Public License. This means it was open source. You could take it and do whatever you wanted with it. Right now, it is BSL or BUSL, Business Source License. And however anyone will claim, this is not open source license anymore. Okay? It's not closed, but it's not open source as we understand open source. The three elements in this license, which I personally don't like, I call this license like parameterized license. Because BSL has three parameters to set by someone who holds the license. It's the usage restriction, so I can say, you can use my product, but you cannot. You can as well, but not today. No, I just reject this. I know you used it yesterday, but today you cannot. So the company who holds the license can tell you what is the usage which allows you to use this product. Second, the change date of the license, because in BSL license there is a time after you release the software when the license should be changed to open source license. But you are able to say when it will happen, in 5 years, and what kind of license it will be. Because there are more licenses than MPL for open source. All right, so that was the trigger for the project, which came to the picture publicly on 13th of August, when the OpenTF manifesto was published. It was called OpenTF on the beginning. Why we changed the name, I will tell in the moment. And very quickly, we received like 36,000 stars in GitHub. So, you know, it's not, stars on GitHub doesn't tell much, except that people like believe or trust in this specific project, right? Or like this project. So this shows a little the popularity of this OpenTF project. And OpenTF and OpenTofu right now, manifesto is still available in the opentofu.org page. And in this manifesto, the group of people behind it said that they would like to keep Terraform open source, but if this will be not possible, they will do something with that. Okay, and there was a pledge or ask for pledge, and people and different organizations started to propose their support. So you can go to the repository of the manifesto and say, hey, I want to support OpenTofu, and this is the way how I can do it. And this is from like 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago. This manifesto repository has more than 1,000 per request closed already. So this is the number, more or less, this is the number of supporters of OpenTofu. So it's quite a lot, right? And we have huge organizations who are supporting this, huge names behind this. Like if you are, for example, if you are working with Ansible, that probably you know the name Jeff Gerling, right? He is one of the supporters as well. And this is how our start rate climbed. It's quite nice to see something like this. All right, but this was the start, okay? And of course, we had to do something with the stuff, and on 25th of August, the fork of OpenTF was announced. At this point, this has like 18,000 stars in GitHub. So Terraform was forked, and the whole work behind the scenes started to, rename everything, be sure that everything works as it should, and so on and so on and so on. So you can imagine it was not only one repository, there was much more than one. And there was a lot of work, believe me, about this. On 5th of September, OpenTofu repo was publicly available from that day. And why OpenTofu? Because when project started to apply to what? Linux Foundation, right? We had a discussion about this, and we decided to have a little bit different name, because TF wasn't perfect here, so we called it OpenTofu. And believe me, other names we had in mind was definitely worse than that. So 5th of September, OpenTofu repository was available. There was no release at that point, just the repository. And this is how it looks right now. It has a lot of traffic there. And I mean it, really a lot of traffic. The thing is that the companies and supporters which are behind really are focused on it. So at this point, for example, there is more people than previously in years back work on Terraform. More people hired just for OpenTofu. So it's treated very seriously. Okay. So next big milestone, 19th of September, Linux Foundation announced that OpenTofu becomes part of the Linux Foundation family. And that was the goal from day one, really, or even from day zero. We wanted to ensure, and why I'm saying we, I will explain in a moment. We wanted to be sure that this project will have public trust, and I know how it sounds. But the problem was when Terraform changed the license, the trust in the market went down, at least in people like we, right? Like us. So we wanted to ensure that we are not just saying that OpenTofu is open source, but to ensure that OpenTofu will be open source forever. That's why Linux Foundation, and that's why CNCF, and about this in a moment. So right now, OpenTofu is part of Linux Foundation, so we cannot just say, you know what, we changed the license, we close it. We cannot do it, because this part is under Linux Foundation. And I believe I don't need to tell you what Linux Foundation is. Who doesn't know? The guy, I think, No, really, the question about one thing is very important. Why the organization, especially big organization, should use open source? Okay, the answer is very simple. We can start simple with Jenkins. Is your organization using Jenkins for CI/CD? It's open source. Is your organization using any kind of observability? It's open source. Open Policy Agent, it's open source. Kubernetes. And now we go to the higher league. It's open source. Linux kernel. Surprise, surprise. It's open source. So will you tell me that you do not use open source in your organization? Probably not. Or you are solely on Windows and using only Windows, right? All right. On 4th of October, the alpha release was released. So this is what? 1.5 months, right? So really quickly. And after that, we had the stable release of 1.6 version of OpenTofu on 10th of January. Right now, we can see that the project is very popular because we have numbers. And games that numbers can tell you how popular you are, right? So the version 1.6 has almost 50,000 downloads already. 1.6.1, 56. 1.6.2, which is the last stable version, 43,000. And recently published 1.7 alpha has a little bit more than 1,000, but it is 3 days after the release. And it's obvious that people use the stable release and play with alpha release of the new version. And last part for the history, on 19th of January, we sent the application to CNCF to be part of this family, because we believe that this is the natural place for OpenTofu to be under CNCF, right? Cloud native, it makes sense. And this is why I said we, because this is my biggest contribution to this project. I opened the issue to CNCF. So yeah, I'm not developer, but I will be there forever. Thank you. Recent thing, last week, Chris Aniszczyk himself added OpenTofu to landscape, CNCF landscape, and we are under automation and configuration category. So hopefully very soon we will be part of the CNCF family. And now it's enough of talking. I'd like to show you how OpenTofu works and how OpenTofu looks and feels. And of course, this is not the perfect way, but anyway, I can manage. Right. We say very often that Terraform or OpenTofu is drop-in replacement for Terraform. Actually, what you need to do is to install OpenTofu, and you can start using with existing Terraform project. Doesn't matter how big it is and how old it is, really. And I try to prove it. Hopefully, it will be it will work. Is this visible for everyone, especially those there? All right, perfect. So I have my project here, very complicated one. You know what to do with the second file. So let's see what we have in main TF. This is very simple. So how many of you doesn't know Terraform? Okay, a few people, so I can explain quickly. So we use here the provider called random. The provider is the way how Terraform core, the binary itself, communicates or used to communicate with other vendors like AWS, like Azure, whatever else, and also how Terraform can execute some commands, some different things, like, for example, generating random number. So this is the resource, random integer, so I will create some random number using this provider. And the last part of this very complicated and very powerful template is to output this number to the screen. As you can see, let me ensure that you believe me. there is no Terraform or OpenTofu project initialized at this point. It's free, it's empty, it's just started, right? So as every single DevOps engineer, I will do some manual work right now. And what I will do, first, let's see what version of Terraform we have. 175, so it's already outdated. Oh, 174. 175 is there, but I believe we can agree it's almost the newest one, right? So what we do is Terraform init, and this will probably take some time. No, even not. So I initialize the project. What happens right now, this just download all providers, all stuff needed for my Terraform, right? So as you can see, 2 new entities appeared, and these both can be taken as internal Terraform stuff. So let's do the Terraform plan. Okay, and now I can apply this. How exciting. Okay, I have my number, okay? So what I've done is, obviously, I executed the Terraform, and I have my state file, terraform.tfstate. And for those of you who don't know Terraform, this is the place, doesn't matter if this will be my local machine or somewhere in the cloud, where I keep the, I would say, I wanted to say current, but it's not really true. I will keep the state from the time I executed my Terraform. Okay? So this is like intermediate element which will allow me later to control changes to apply. All right, so I have this. Let's see something interesting. What kind of providers we have? We have one provider, right? Random. And it is required by the configuration because I asked for this in my very complicated main.tf, and also required by state. So the second element, Terraform tf state, this is already there. So I have in the state already resource generated by this specific provider. Let's see one more thing. Okay, where is my mouse? Here. All right. Here we see that we are using Terraform version 174 and also the provider here. Why this is important, I will explain in a second when we switch to OpenTofu. Because right now what I can do, I have this executed, right? It works, it is there, perfect. But you know what? Let's make it a little bit more professional because random, okay, random is nice and it may even work, but let's do something real, right? What we will do, we will create S3 bucket in Amazon AWS S3. So let's take a look into this file. Very simple. We need new provider, AWS, okay? And this provider requires HashiCorp.aws provider to be downloaded. Then I will create one S3 bucket and output the name of this bucket into the screen. Simple like that. But at least we will do something real in the cloud. Okay, so let's try to plan this. Why it doesn't work? Because I have new provider. So I have to init my Terraform again in order to download this provider. Hopefully this will work as quickly as before. Probably not. So I didn't limit any version of my provider to download, right? So that's why I download the latest one. Okay, I have it. Let's try Terraform plan. the number will not change because the resource is written in the state, right? So that's why no new thing will happen here, but we still wait for AWS part. I think I know what's going on. No. All right, so we have something. We probably will be able to apply this. Yeah, come on. Almost. Close enough. So difference between plan and apply, for those who doesn't know Terraform, it means plan means plan. So show me what will be done, what will change. And apply means, surprise, apply. So just apply the changes into real environment. OpenTofu has one big advantage over Terraform. And I mean it, really big advantage. You will see it in the second. Okay, so we have our bucket created. We have the number still as it was. And we are fine, okay? What we do now, let's see our directory. Okay, everything is here. So what I will do, I will now migrate to OpenTofu. Bear with me, because this will be very complicated. Let's assume it finished, so migration is done. At this point, OpenTofu is drop-in replacement. It means you don't need to change anything in your code in order to migrate. And why this OpenTofu is much better than Terraform? Look at this. Okay? I don't need any alias even. All right, so I initialized my project. No, not Terraform, Tofu. Tofu providers. Let's see on our providers. We see something strange here, right? Why is that? Because we didn't apply anything yet. So we have in the configuration, we still have, in the state, we still have Terraform.io, but in the configuration, we see opentofu.org. This means that the configuration is ready to apply the providers from proper registry, OpenTofu registry, but in state, we still have providers downloaded and used from the Terraform side. So let's do tofu plan. Yeah. Or more internet in some bucket. Come on. All right, so this is done, and let's do tofu apply. And this is really everything what you need. Of course, this example is simple, right? I don't have any conditionals. I don't have any loops, anything like that. I don't have any complicated infrastructure created here. But it works exactly in the same way for very long, very old Terraform. It will, if your template will work with Terraform, it will work with OpenTofu. If not, it will not. That's the consistency. Okay, so let's see our providers again. And at this point, you see that we have in the state registry.opentofu.org. Why this is important? Because when OpenTofu was published and announced, HashiCorp also changed the way of using the registry. So right now, the registry which we saw before, registry.terraform-hashicorp.org, cannot be used by anything else than HashiCorp product. What makes sense from their perspective, right? That's why the new registry was created by OpenTofu group. So we took the approach fork everything. So if if GitHub will not allow us to store OpenTofu there, we will fork GitHub. No, I'm kidding, of course. Generally, what is very interesting about this registry, we took the approach, like really open sourcey approach. So generally, every hour, if I'm not mistaken, all GitHub is scanned for the specific repositories. And if there is a registry, there is a provider which fulfill the expectation, it will be, let's call it, downloaded into this registry. And it's turned out that when we run this registry, we had more providers than HashiCorp. So you don't need to have any, confirmations, any thing to fill to be in the registry. You just create the registry as the provider as it should be, and it's done. It's there. So this is one thing. And now the final command. We have here definitely more stuff because we use the AWS thingy, right? But we have here Terraform version 1.7.0. This is our Tofu version. But you can ask why Terraform.version? Because this is like a metadata. This is the description of the configuration. And if we change this, this will be not drop-in replacement. Right? Because there will be some change in the configuration, which we didn't want, really. And also, somewhere here, you can see we use this OpenTofu registry. So from the legal perspective, you shouldn't worry about using Tofu, because you do not use the HashiCorp registry. OK. So let's come back here. And let's talk a little bit, where is my here? OK. About the future. So first of all, in 19th of March, there will be an OpenTofu day during the KubeCon. And for those of you who doesn't realize it yet, it's tomorrow. OK? So this will be collocated event during the KubeCon. And our people will be there to talk about this, and you are able, if you go, to collect some stuff, to talk with the core developers there. Another element is 1.7 release, right? So alpha is already there, but as you can see, for example, what is really interesting and what we really love is to see, come on, go up here. Oh, good. State encryption. How old is Terraform? 10 years? Something like that, right? So the community asked HashiCorp to implement state encryption for, I think, 10 years. We will have it in 1.7. So you will be able to encrypt your state before it hits some storage. So you don't need to care. Of course, you should care about the encryption. Yeah, we will come back to your question later. This will be paid option. Of course, it will work both ways. And of course, you should still encrypt your storage, that's obvious, but the encryption of the state will be done by Tofu. And this is a little bit outdated. We are very close to deliver all those features very, very soon. I don't know the date, but still it shouldn't be that far. 1.7 is ready to be tested. And before we go to Q&A, I have a couple of questions already prepared on behalf of you. So the first question, which we heard very often, so did we start OpenTofu because we are the competition to Terraform? The answer is very simple, no. Because companies like Spacelift, where I work, and others like N0 and so on, they are not competitors to Terraform. We are competitors, yes, but to Terraform Cloud. And this is completely different stuff, okay? So if you can imagine, like, if you do the compiler for C++, you are not the competitor for C++ itself, right? Will we fork another projects? Except GitHub? No, because we are experts in infrastructure as code field. That's why our focus is in infrastructure as code. However, there are other projects who are going in the same direction. For example, OpenBAO. This is the, I don't know if drop-in, but replacement for, who knows? Vault. For Vault. And honestly speaking, they should call themselves Open Sesame. But anyway, so looks like the foodie trend is going and rising. Another question, is OpenTofu really a Terraform's drop-in replacement? I think I proved it just a couple of seconds before, but please remember one thing. Terraform and OpenTofu, there are two different projects. Of course, we will try to keep compatibility as long as possible, but OpenTofu is community-driven, so if you want something in Tofu, you just go to the repository, open RFC, open the issue, and probably it can be implemented, okay? So there is a process about the changes, what should be in the next versions, and so on. Will there be differences between Terraform and OpenTofu? I think I explained this, why there will be. Okay, of course, so I believe both projects will look on the competitors, like what they do, but how it will be implemented and what will be implemented, we'll see. But there will be differences, I'm sure. And are we prepared for any further changes in licenses? I told you already that we can fork everything, right? Yes, so the proper answer is yes, we are. We do not expect a lot of changes because we separated this project very well already, but we will see what will happen next, right? Because everything is possible. So I encourage you to try OpenTofu if you didn't yet. It's easy. There is a lot that, you know, if you want to install OpenTofu, if you use Mac, brew install OpenTofu, you have it. If you use Debian, there are packages. If you use Red Hat, there are packages. Even for Windows, there are MSI which can be installed. So everything is there, ready to be used. Even Alpine will provide, if not already provides, the support for it. And interesting thing, after the change of the license, many products, like for example Alpine and FreeBSD, said that Terraform is no longer supported by them because of the license. Right? Because there are projects which have like in the DNA that they can use only open source. And that's it. If you like to connect with me, there is a lot of QR codes, so choose one and use it.
Thanks for this. Thank you.